Welcome to another episode of Middle-Aged Barbarians. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Eugene.
And I'm messing with you. And we will be talking about more common types of players that you could see in your table, and the very important, not always needed, but important Session Zero.
The fabled Session Zero.
Controversial even.
Controversial for some.
Yes, indeed.
All right. So when we talk about Session Zero, basically we're talking about three different aspects that you do in a pre-game session. It's like you're going to get everybody together and you're going to work on these three things before you actually start the game. I think the first one would be to set up the theme or the ambiance or the flavor.
Expectations in general.
Of the campaign.
Yeah, you can say it's sort of a pirate adventure, a spy setting, or just fighting monsters, hordes of monsters, like the video game Diablo. I mean, that could be a thing.
As long as your players are into it, it's good.
Yeah, which is very important. And like Eugene said, it can be either a whole session or just a few minutes before you start, because sometimes it's not worth it. If it's for like one or two adventures, it's not worth it. This is more for a really long campaign to have these sessions to do this sort of agreements.
Yeah, if you're going to do a one-shot or just like a 2-3 session module, something real quick, you probably won't need to spend a whole day doing a Session Zero. If you're going to have a mid to long-running campaign, and then I think it would be very helpful to get everybody together and work these things out.
So, well, first of all, that's the theme. We know what to expect in the campaign.
I think the next part is character creation. When we say character creation, it's not only throwing dice and setting up the character stats and all that. Character creation also entails their background, the stories, their motivations. I think it's a good way to, as a DM, to kind of get to know what your player characters want from you, so you can kind of work that into the world and the adventures they're going to be going through.
In general, players have their own motivations, and the campaign has its own motivations. So you have to align it or make make adjustments so they work together rather than in conflict. Because, oh boy, have I seen conflict between what the expectations of the campaign were and what the player wanted to do.
It's also important during the character creation process that everybody be on the same page with what races are available, what classes, if it's going to be like a high magic or a low power campaign. I mean, even something that sounds as trivial as how they're going to level up. If it's going to be XP based, if it's going to be like a milestone or during certain parts of the story. All that is talked during a Session Zero, and I think I enjoy it.
Yeah, and sometimes if the players you don't know them all from your previous life before the game, it's also a good time to get to know the people, because they have to share what they want to do with the game.
Also, I think something that we didn't talk on theme is not everybody's into the same thing. And everybody's going to have, I think you mentioned different expectations about what's going to be played during the game, or how hardcore, how dense the descriptions and narratives can be. If we talk about like a high fantasy, Tolkien-esque kind of, I think everybody's on the page that the more fantasy, the better. But if you get into a more macabre kind of horror setting, or maybe some steampunk and stuff that can have the tendency to get a little bit more detailed and gruesome and out of hand, just make sure with your players that everybody's in for the same kind of experience, because there may be somebody who's not into that, so they can opt out from the beginning.
Yeah, or you make adjustments and agreements. I mean, it's all flexible. Remember, this is a collaborative experience. You're not just the iron-fisted ruler. Although some people like that, like the producer over there, they like doing that. But
the iron-fisted producer.
The iron-fisted producer, yeah. And speaking of Iron Fist, this is also the time to make agreements about, time and place.
The scheduling. Scheduling is always a pain in the butt.
Behind, or derrière, if you want to get French. Yeah, you have to set up expectations of the logistics. You say, this is so many days a month, such and such days, such and such time. What do we do if somebody's absent? Do we reschedule?
How many people have to be absent to reschedule? Because I mean, if I'm not going to be there, but everybody else is, then
It's not fair.
Just run the game.
Run the game, and what happens with the character? Do they get mysteriously abducted by elves?
Do they fade into the background?
Do they become like a sort of NPC semi-controlled by the DM? I mean, I've done that, and the players themselves have sent, when there's like really important decisions, they send me a quick text, and I use what they gave me to adapt the NPC so it works within the desires of the player, so it doesn't just go like, gets very, very different from what they would have done. So there are many solutions, but you do try to set up agreements here and now.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if you say we're going to meet up every 15 days, twice a month, that everybody can adhere. But, real life has a way of getting involved, and I think real life always takes precedence. It's always more important than the table.
Yeah.
There's the controversy.
Well, it's not controversial. It's just, it's part of being a middle-aged barbarian. You don't always prefer the adventure to, I don't know.
You have to rage responsibly.
Yeah, you don't rage responsibly. You just don't leave, I don't know, your kids behind because you have to roll dice with your friends. Obviously it takes precedence, but keep in mind it's a whole group, so you have to be conscious of everybody and respectful. And something that would be ideal, try to send notice with time so you can work with it, because, oh boy, have I had games that were canceled like 10 minutes after the supposed hour that we were going to meet, and it's like...
It sucks. It's harsh.
It sucks. It's harsh. It feels awful. You're still a human being, even though you could be an iron-fisted DM like that one over there. Okay, so, we don't have to. We choose to. We want to.
We'd like to.
We'd like to, because it's important for you to know, basically. Yeah. There are basically two main categories of players. The players that are very, very oriented to the mechanics of the game, who love to crunch the numbers, make the weird mixes of stats to make the very overpowered thing. For instance, I don't know, a warrior that can only shoot arrows, but their arrows make a ton of damage and they cannot do anything else.
Yeah, back in the day, we used to call them min-maxers.
Min-maxers, yeah, that was the term.
Munchkins.
Munchkins, those were the terms back when we were young barbarians, not middle-aged. And the players that choose the more social and/or the storytelling aspect of the game. So you have to be aware of what they do, and how to cater to them, and how to use their tendencies for your game. And there are people that love both things. It's a balance. So be aware of them. Try to see where your players are going and adapt to that.
We've seen and we've been different kinds of players at the table in different times. I think my favorite type of player per se is the Slayer. Yeah, I usually tend to gravitate more toward the let's go out, let's destroy the monsters, let's just annihilate whatever's in front of us. And so I'm really into like the battle aspect of the game. And with that goes like the numbers and the crunching and the figuring out what my AC and attack modifiers and how I can be a better fighter, warrior, barbarian, etc.
etc. Whereas I prefer things like more to solve the puzzle, to open the box, to investigate, to see what's behind the machine, but not the machine of the numbers of the game, but the machine of the adventure of the world. So I like to learn stuff about the game, the world, and work with that. So that's a little bit more social, but it also has mechanical advantages. So, for instance, when learning about the world, if you see that the weakness of such and such monster is this, well, you can prepare accordingly.
Yeah, when my axe doesn't do the job, then you can tinker around and use your skills and get it done.
And spells.
Before we drown in the temple.
Yeah. And there's also people that, rather than doing that, choose to act, to become more of an actor, to really get into character, sometimes with very unusual choices, accents.
Mannerisms. They'll go full-fledged into their character. I know I have a friend actually who's playing, and his character is a paladin bard, but speaks with a very thick Italian accent. actually speaks Italian, not even English. So we're having to deal with this guy and his histrionics and all this stuff. And so actors are cool because, I mean, they do bring this, they do like elevate the role-playing aspect of the game. But as a DM, I'd say you have to be a little careful with them because it's very easy for them, like, just want to be in the center and take up the limelight and chew up the maybe 3 or 4 hours you have set up for the gaming session.
Yeah, give them a little bit of time to act, to be the center of attention, but not the whole session. And because they would tend to do that. They usually tend to be people with a very strong personality as well. They're very, not aggressive per se, but charismatic. I mean, makes sense.
But then the issue is that when you have an actor, you'll probably have an instigator. I don't know if you've ever had a player that you may be like in the session where you're presenting an evil guy to the characters and he's monologuing and he just whips out his bow and shoots the guy before you start.
Yeah.
Before you start even throwing initiative, you know? So they're going to start like just provoke to get things going and quit all the jibber jabber and let's throw some dice.
So you can make arrangements for that, either in-game or outside of the game. You can set an arrangement that since they're known to do that, well, the enemies were prepared, so it doesn't work like usually, like what he would think would happen. Or you can say outside of the game, which is a very important concept. You have to remember there are things that happen in the game and things that happen outside of the game. You can say outside of the game, hey, man, that's not cool. I mean, if you're getting bored, like, pass me a note, let me know or tell the other guy, the actor, to wrap it up a little bit and work with that.
Or maybe even force him to role play a little bit and get involved to kind of end the diplomacy.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Fudge his persuasion check and make things go south, you know?
And this is not to say that the experience is also just for people who like either of those things. There's a lot of people, we had several people in the table that we play with them. They're just like practically like a tombstone, just super quiet. They just say, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. They roll their die, and they say nothing. And you're like, dude, are you even having fun?
And they love it.
And they love it.
Yeah.
They love seeing the actor do their thing, their dumb things. Well, not dumb, their histrionics. They love the power game. Oh, that was really clever. What you did. And they end up chatting more out at the end of the session than during the session, which is, I mean, it happens. So also, yeah, keep that in mind. Not everybody who's not being really active participant is not having fun.
Yeah, it's important to talk with your players and figure out, you know, how they're feeling during the games, after the games, and get that feedback from the different types of players that you identify. I mean, I think we mentioned maybe 5 or 6 different types of characters. There's a bunch of different types of people, and you're going to even find probably mixtures. You're going to find the actor who's also a power gamer. You're going to find the watcher who, I don't know, maybe he does want to investigate, but he's not into the role-playing part, so he'll do his thing on the side and text you a message or send you a note. And you can use that to your advantage, you know, to tailor your games down the line. And it helps a lot, I think.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important to know your players because it also benefits you. Because at the end of the day, I feel that DMing is also kind of a little bit an act of service because you're working with other people. So that's very, very, very cool to know them.
Yeah, I agree.
Good.
In closing, I mean, just to retouch a couple of the parts that we talked about in today's episode. Session 0, 3 things. Talk about the theme, the ambiance, character creation with your players, and get that scheduling down. Just recognizing that, you know, even if you want a proper schedule, it's going to be changed a little bit. Second part we talked about are the different types of players that you're going to find at your table. It's important to get to know your players so you can modify and adapt what you're playing with them and everybody can enjoy a little bit more. And the third part would be that real life takes precedence. So if your player, you as a DM, you know, have to take time off, just let your other players know, reschedule, so everybody knows and you're on the same page.
So for the next episode, we will talk about the first session, the first actual session, what to expect, what to do when actually playing, and well, we'll see you then.
Yeah, leave your comments, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
And rage responsibly.
Rage responsibly, I think we're going to start saying that one.
Yeah, that one's good. Yeah, it's on theme, on brand.
Anyways, we'll see you next episode. Roll the dice!